The sentry never saw the dark-clad figure ghosting through the night toward Castle Araluen. Merging with the prevailing patterns of light and shade thrown by the half-moon, the interloper seemed to blend into the fabric of the night, matching the rhythm of the trees and cloud shadows as they moved with the moderate wind. The sentry's post was in the outer cordon, outside the walls of the massive castle, by the southeastern tower. The moat rippled gently behind him, its surface stirred by the wind, so that the reflections of the stars in the dark water were set shimmering in 1,000 tiny points of light. Before him stretched the massive parkland that surrounded the castle, carefully tended, immaculately mown, and dotted with fruit and shade trees. The ground sloped gently away from the castle. There were trees and small shady dells where couples or individuals could sit and relax and picnic in relative privacy, sheltered from the sun. But the trees were small, and they were well spaced out, with plenty of open ground between them, so that concealment would be denied to any large attacking force. It was a well-ordered compromise between the provision of privacy and relaxation and the need for security, in an age when an attack could conceivably happen at any time. 30 meters to the left of where the sentry stood, a picnic table had been fashioned by attaching an old cartwheel to the sawn-off stump of what had been a larger tree. Several rustic benches were placed around the table, and a smaller tree had been planted to one side to shade it at noon. It was a favourite spot for the knights and their ladies, affording a good overview of the green, pleasant parklands that sloped away to the distant dark line of a forest. The intruder was heading toward this table. He slipped into the shadows of a small grove 40 meters from the bench, then dropped belly down to the ground. Taking one last look to get a bearing, the dark figure snaked out of the shadows, face down, heading for the shelter of the table. Progress was painstakingly slow. This was a trained stalker who knew that any rapid movement would register with the sentry's peripheral vision. As shadows of clouds passed over the park, the crawling figure would move with them, rippling unobtrusively across the short grass, seeming to be just one more moving shadow. The dark green clothing aided concealment. Black would have been too dark and would have created too deep a shadow. It took 10 minutes to cover the distance to the table. A few meters short of the objective, the figure froze as the guard suddenly stiffened, as if alerted by some sound or slight movement, or perhaps just an intuitive sense that all was not quite right. He turned and peered in the general direction of the table, not even registering the dark, unmoving shape a few meters from it. Eventually satisfied that there was no danger, the sentry shook his head, stamped his feet, marched a few paces to the right, then back to the left, then shifted his spear to his left hand and rubbed his eyes with his right. He yawned, then settled into a slump, his weight resting more on one foot than the other. He sniffed wryly. He'd never get away with that relaxed posture on daylight sentry duty. But it was after midnight now, and the sergeant of the guard was unlikely to come and check on him in the next hour. As the sentry relaxed again, the dark figure slid the last few meters to the shelter of the table. Rising slowly to a crouching position, he studied the situation. The sentry, after his shuffling and stamping, had moved a few meters farther away from the table, but not enough to cause a problem. There was a long leather thong knotted around the intruder's waist, now untied. It could be seen to be a sling, with a soft leather pouch at its centre. A smooth, heavy stone went into the pouch, and the figure rose a little, beginning to swing the simple weapon in a wide, slow circle, using a minimal wrist movement and gradually building up speed. The sentry became aware of a foreign sound in the night. It began as a deep-throated, almost inaudible hum, and slowly grew higher in pitch. The change was so gradual that he wasn't sure at what point he became aware of it. It sounded like an insect of some sort, a giant bee, perhaps. It was difficult to detect the direction the sound was coming from.